Yeah, for people who have not used the Slido before, and just go to the slido.com at the left of the screen, and use that 12677 as the event code, and then just enter your information. Okay. Okay. So majority of them are coaches, the fellow coaches. Good. Okay, you want to pull in the next one? Mm. Okay, so maybe go to the next poll. Hi, Jocelyn. I saw you're online. Can you hear
Hi.
us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, I would just have a poll running and see what does the audience look like.
I saw that.
Okay.
Looks like it's a three-way tie. Yes.
Okay, I think I would like to have a little bit more data. I think
Yeah. But I don't need that so big. You don't need this so big? The slide. I need the other thing.
okay, I think it seems like is mostly is hi Jocelyn,
Oh,
is
hello.
is the new coaches. Okay.
I had a few questions for the panel.
Uh-huh. So Jocelyn, sorry for the interruption. I think it seems that there's a lot of coaches are new to FLL.
Yes.
Maybe I think we gave a little introduction for what the FL is, and Joe have a couple of slides prepared. Maybe we can let Joe give that introduction, and then we can get back to you to the questions.
Yes, he's going to start with that, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
Heather.
The 3-slide introduction of FIRST and FLL for coaches.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That would be important to set like the framework. My question was, how does the panel want me to address them? By your first name or last name?
First name is fine.
Yeah. First name is
Okay.
fine.
So it's Philip, Joe, and
Daji.
what?
Daji.
Naji.
Daji.
Daji.
Yeah.
Daji.
Yeah.
Philip, Joe, and Daji.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, Dawei as well.
Okay. I get to call him whatever I want, right?
Okay, should I start? Okay, so welcome everybody. This is a coach's call for First Lego League. As we showed that the majority of you guys are coaches and fairly new, so I wanted to go over what First Lego League is and how it's structured, and a little bit about the different areas, and then we can go into your questions. Next slide. First Lego League is a league basically between 4th grade and 8th grade. It's to get instill a sense of fun into STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math. It is designed to be kind of like a sports area in that you can do more things. We like to say it's the one sport that every kid could go pro. What it basically is allowing students that in the upper elementary and middle school to create innovative solutions to real world problems, to strategize, and to learn the engineering process while they build an autonomous Lego robot, to apply real world math and science concepts, to deliver career and life skills. I mean, by the end of the season, the fact that you have 4th graders doing research defense and their thesis defense in front of a room full of adult engineers is amazing. And the fact that they can talk an engineering design review when they're in 4th grade is simply amazing. When if any of your kids are in this and they go to high school and they start PTLW, the learning objectives that Project Lead the Way, which is the engineering classes in high school in Maryland, the learning objectives seem so basic compared to what they're learning in First Lego League. It's amazing. Next slide. First Lego League is divided into, judging-wise, is divided into 3 areas. There's a core values section, there is a project section, and a robot design. Core values is basically teamwork, how well the team works and operates together. In order to do that, the teams go into a room with 3 judges. They're given approximately a 3-minute challenge, and then they have 7 minutes Q&A. The entire 10 minutes is designed to evaluate how the teams work together and solve problems. Next slide. The observation of the teams is as they work on the activity. It's not important that how they actually accomplish the activity that has been given, but it is a problem that has been given to them that they haven't seen before, and how do they approach that problem as a team? Do they get in a shouting match? Is it Lord of the Flies where everybody's doing different things? Is somebody yelling at somebody else? Or are they getting together as a team to try to come up with a way forward, and they execute? That's the what it's designed for. And in 10 minutes, it's amazing good teams versus developing teams, and how well they can approach any task you give them, and they apply what they've learned through the entire season. Next slide. Then the second half is a project. It's a 10-minute presentation, 10-minute Q&A. They are given a real world problem. They are to research that problem, come up with an innovative solution, and share their findings with others. Next slide. They, as I said, they identify a real world problem based on that year's theme. They create a solution. The solution doesn't have to be robot or technology based, and they have to share their research. So these kids have to identify a problem. This year it was buildings and city shapers. Last year it was space. The year before was water. And they had to come up with a problem. They had to research. They had to talk to experts in the field about their problem. They had to develop an innovative solution. They had to then research and go and talk to additional experts to find out is their solution viable. And then they had to share their research and their solution, and then go back through that process again to what feedback did they receive, and how did they put that back into their research and their solution development. Next slide. And finally, robot. They have to design and build an autonomous Lego robot that can go onto a field and compete on missions. That's one thing, and that's fairly straightforward. The robot goes on this board. In 2.5 minutes, they have the robot perform various tasks, which are worth different amounts of points. The design judging, they go in with their robots and they talk about their process. How did they design originally? Which missions were they going to do? How are they going to design their robot to do those things? What attachments were they going to put on? What were their choices? How did they test it? How did they then refine what went wrong? How did they refine their design process? The same thing with their programming. How did they program? How did they test their program? How did they refine their program? And then their strategies. How many missions were they doing? How many points were they going after? All of that is being reviewed during the design, robot design judging. And so teams are scored on core values, teamwork, on their research project, on their robot design, and how well the robot actually does in the real world. So between those 4 things, those championship teams are ones that excel in all 4 areas. I mean, the fact that a team can go into 3 separate rooms with 3 separate different groups of judges and excel and impress 3 different groups of judges is how we determine the championships. And that's basically the end of my spiel.
So thank you. We'd like to start the question portion. And what is your greatest challenge about coaching a team?
So maybe I will jump on this one first. And I think by the way, I think the FLL is one of my favorite first event, and is at the age the students just start to feel the independence, but it's not there yet. And I think the every year when we deal with that age group is how to motivate them, how to make sure these FL activities are what they like to do, is not they were forced to do. So that's the challenges that we have every year. So so we have to build the trust that this is their independent the opportunity for them to be independent, and they're doing their own project. They working on their own ideas. So that's the challenge for our teams.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to add to that?
I'll just say for me, because my team is relatively large, it's 8 children, and I think all teams have different ages. So we have 5th and 6th and 7th graders this year. So it's my greatest challenge is to keep everybody, just like David said, motivated, but also meet, because their level of understanding a problem or solving a problem are all different. So keep everybody engaged, but also keep the team balanced. And I want everybody to be able to contribute, but I don't want to drag those ones who are really advanced back. So keep everybody, working hard. It's a challenge for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. How about we move on?
I'm sorry, did we want to go around the panel and everybody introduce themselves and then explain how you can vote on the different questions and stuff? If you see one of those questions that you want, it can go up to the top. I just wanted to make sure we wanted to do a little bit of how to do things for the audience.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Maybe I think Heather, do you want to bring back the slide for the self-introduction? So we have some technical problem at the beginning and then we forgot about that. So Jocelyn, I'll give the back floor to you.
Yes. How about we start with Philip?
I think Philip is has not joined us today.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
The name.
how about we start with Dazi?
Okay, so my name is Daji Jiao. I'm an IT professional, and I'm a 5-year FL coach. So I've been to the state final for the last 2 years, and this year my team won the first place in the Champions Award at the state final.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. That's it.
And how about Joe? Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Joe Cunningham. I teach. I'm a coach of 6 girls. We were first place last year. We were 3rd place this year. We were headed off to Legoland until things got away from us. And I've been doing this for 7 years, and I'm also a judge advisor for the state of Maryland, and I've been a referee at Worlds.
Wow, that's great. And Dawe, would you tell us about yourself?
Yeah. So I have been coaching and mentoring FL for 7 years, and also judged at the world, local, and state level. And our team have been into the Invitational 3 times. So it was fun, and so I'm glad that we can join this distinguished panel to share our experiences.
Yes. I'll tell you a little bit about myself quickly. I have been a mentor of an FTC team. This is my 7th year. And I also ran a FLL team for 2 years alongside the FTC team. And I have participated in FLL judging, a lot of the project judging, and core values also.
Mm-hmm.
And our FTC team has been to Worlds each year for the past, I guess, 6 years.
Great.
So I wanted to ask another question, is how can a team come up with a vision? Who would be interested in starting us with that question?
I think you start off with your team goals. And one of your first meetings, once you get everybody together to start the season again, you figure out what are the goals. What is everybody trying to get out of it? Is it that everybody wants to do all three aspects? They all want to get on the robot. They want to, sometimes it's I want to program more, or I want to do a little bit more of the research. Our goal is that everybody does everything, that everybody is equal. And we come up with our goals. We want to get more points than last year. We want to try a couple different attachments this year. We want to try a passive attachment, or we want to try a little bit more programming. And we take the feedback. We watch what happened last year. We get the videotape here in Maryland, luckily. We get to videotape the judging. So we go through the judging and say, what do you think we could have done better this year? Or they wanted to go on a field trip somewhere to talk to experts, we can set that up. So I think that's how you get your vision is once you identify who's on your team and what their goals are, you can set up the season so that way everybody gets to do what they're wanting to do.
Yeah, I agree. And if, like you said, evaluating your season helps the kids to plan for the following season, the next season.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone want to add on to that about?
Yeah, so I want to add, I think that the vision is very important, that to, especially like if you want to do like for a while when your child is young, and for us, we want to do something that is different from the schools. The schools, like you have the critical thinking, you have the teacher give you problems, so you don't want to do the same thing as school. They don't want to have another class. And so what we set out, our goal is to set up a safe environment for children to fail, because there are a lot of things they're learning from failures, and especially this life skills, and they have to be really in a real life situation to experience the failures. So that's the things that we set out to do, and then to realize that vision. I think basically we just let the kids make decisions. Like even we know like they're going to fail, they're going to experience that. So that's sort of like the things that we implemented.
That's a very good point, Dawi. I'm glad that you brought that up. That's, I think, a really important goal for an FLL team. And if anyone has anything to add to that question, if not, we'll move on to the next question, which is how many hours per week do you need to be competitive and to complete the vision that your team has?
I think it really depends on the team, how mature your team is, and so I think every team has their own schedule. But for us, we met 2 hours at first. My team is from a Chinese school, so it's a Sunday school. So we have 2 hours in the community college where the school is on Sundays, and then we met another 2 hours in my basement. Basically, we do robot game there. So most of the time we meet 4 hours a week. And then during the fall, there are a lot of days off, so we would try to use that time as well. So we would have some meetings on afternoon or for the whole day sometimes.
So what do you guys do when you get close to the tournament?
Get close to the tournament. I actually try not to have like the whole week work for the kids to working on something before the tournament. I try not to do that. First, I cannot handle it. It doesn't work for my schedule. And also I think that's gonna be too stressful for them. So for the last 2 weeks, we might just adding another 2 hours each week. We definitely gonna meet the day before the tournament, or the day before, or 2 days before the tournament. So to just bring everybody, to just prepare them for the tournament for that night. But other than that, we don't meet like 5 days a week. And
Yeah, we meet 2 hours doing on the robot game, and then 2 hours doing core values in the project. And then they can do stuff at home too. But we basically meet the same thing, about 4 hours. As competition gets closer, we have a cutoff date that we're not going to touch the robot again. It is how it is.
Right.
And we're not going to do extra amounts of work, and we're just going to get ready with our presentation and do some really fun core values things. We went the week before we went to competition this year. We went to a breakout room, and we got the whole group over there, and they had to go through a breakout room to get out. And so they use their core value skills on how to approach a problem too. So it's fun things like that they go out and we wanted it to be a celebration as the end of the year, not necessarily the stressful thing they have to get ready for.
Yeah, I think our team seems like it'll be a little bit more chaotic than the other two teams, and I think it may be because we try to embrace that that the kids make decisions, and if we want to follow kids' decisions, like where we're going. So I think normally we have 2 meetings, one project meeting during the weekdays, like a 1.5 hours, and then 3 hours for robotic meetings. But if some children like really want to work on certain things, and then we normally will work with them. And so I think the last year, like when we get to the kind of invitational, is like the kids even work during the New Year's Eve days, New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, like this is like crazy. And but I think the key thing is not that that let them feel like they have to win an award or something. Is really kind of culture this passion, like the things that they like really want to implement their own ideas, and it's a different feeling. I think that's and so every year is that so our schedule is kind of flexible a little bit, depend on the interest of the students.
Yeah, I just want to add one last thing that Dali just said that I wanted to point out, and it kind of answers the last question about when you come up with goals. Your goals have to be something that you can have, that you have power over. Winning a competition can't be a goal, because you can't control what the other teams are going to come to the competition at.
Sure.
You can control that. I want to get better at doing this type of program, or I want to build this type of robot. That's something you can control. So that's why we make our goals to what we can actually do.
Yeah. So we've talked about team's vision and how many hours a team needs to meet. And I wanted to also ask you is, what is a good FLL team size?
I think it's the mental capacity of the coach. I could not handle.
Is there a magic number?
My first team was 10, and that was Lord of the Flies. My magic number is 6. That's how I do.
6.
I like 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 6 is a magic number as well. For some practical reasons. Firstly, if you have 6 people, you can break them into 2 groups or 3 groups. Let them work in pairs or in group of 3, which is perfect. I actually don't have that luxury, because our team was required by the school to be at least 8. So I've coached 10 kids, and it was not. Yeah, it was really, really stressful. 8, I can barely manage it. Again, that was my greatest challenge. So I think 6 would be more manageable.
so I read somewhere that for a kind of high energy creative groups, and normally the size is between 5 and 7. So that has been our guidelines, and so our team has never been over 7, but we do have some years that we have 3 girls. And so like actually they're doing pretty well too, but I think that normally we don't have a big team.
Team, yes, yeah. So now that we have our team size and we have our team schedule, we talked about our vision. How do you keep everybody on your team busy at the same time and be productive?
For us, we break the team into pairs. I don't. They do. The team breaks themselves into pairs. Generally, we have a veteran and a rookie. We usually get a lot of turnover. Like last year we had 2 8th graders leave. We had another 2 this year are going to leave, and so we're always getting new ones in. And so we try to pair veteran ones with rookies. And we also have 2 complete robots, so they can go off and do their own thing. You don't have 12 sets of hands trying to do the same thing at the same time. That's the best way to organize it, is break up as Dazi said, you can break up into 3s or the 2s, but if you have 10 kids and 1 robot, it's going to be really hard to keep everybody busy. Somebody's going to be sitting in the corner twiddling their thumbs.
Yes. And who would like to add on to that?
So I at the beginning of the season, I asked them. So I have some roles defined for them. So we have 2 captains. Again, we have a big team, so we have 2 captains. So 1 captain and 1 assistant, and then we have roles like outreach leader and the robot game leader and project leader. So everybody has a role. Pick a role they want to do. The captains are voted basically, and then that keeps them busy for different reasons. And also we have groups to work on robot games or projects.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have groups to work on the.
Yeah,
project?
so everybody works on everything. Let me clarify. But for robot game, we break them into 2 groups. And for project, we also break them into 2 groups. So some might be working on one chunk of one aspect of the project, and the other team might work on something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to add that I think that even though it is their own project, they set their own goals, but at the age of 9 to 14, they're very easily distracted. So we basically recruit the older kids. I think basically from our FTC teams, and then we have a couple of people there, and to constantly drag them back if they're like distract to other places, and keep them on target.
And snack time and frequent breaks for core values, little games, keeps them on point. So you don't want them doing programming for 2 hours. You want to give them a multiple breaks, let them decompress, and be kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And this is a hard thing because sometimes everybody's at a different point when they're working. Like you might be at a really crucial point when you're programming, or you might be at a real crucial point when if you're on building or working on the project. But it's important, like you said, to have the team come together to do those skills, team building skills.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question for you. How about your meeting space? What does your meeting space look like? A successful team needs to have a good meeting space. So tell us about your meeting spaces. Who would like to share first? How about Joe?
My meeting space is the basement of one of my parents. They have the nice large basement that they weren't quite using, but it was finished. And so we put the table down there. There was couches, and the parents have been very nice supplying snack time too. So our space is somebody's basement.
Okay, how about Dazi?
Yeah, like I said, we meet 2 hours in the community college, which was actually a classroom setting. But before the start of the lesson or the meeting, I actually arranged the chair so that we actually sit in the circles, because I don't want me to stand in front of them and, you know, that I do all the talking and kids don't do anything, but just listening to me. So we sit in the circle. I don't stand up. I sit there with them in the circle. So that helps, I think, to change the team dynamics. And then at my house, yeah, it's in my basement. So we have a table, and we do the robot game there.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you that a circle really makes a difference, and how the team is seated. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
A circle is a place where all can participate.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good. I like that. And how about Dawe? Where does your team meet?
Our teams normally have the project meetings at a local library because they have space, but also there are some electronics parts that they can use. And then we use a lot of basement space as well. Like I think most frequently it's our basement, but also the parents will host the team as well. And then sometimes actually they run robot and send us videos how it runs, and that's how we kind of coordinate with each other.
Okay. How about outreach? Who would like to share how their team approaches outreach in the community?
Do we want to unmute Phil?
Oh, I do see you there, Phil. Hello. We're glad to have you here.
Oh.
We can't hear him.
Let me unmute.
There you go.
Who would like to share? Dazi, would you like to talk about outreach?
Sure. Yeah, so we do several outreach activities through the season. I think outreach are important. First, my kids, some of the kids are a little shy. It's normal for their age. Outreach helps them to open themselves to talk to someone. And also, I think outreach is really important to have the team to work together not in a setting where they have to do the robot game or do the project, but they actually are working together toward a goal and to talk to someone. So we do at the beginning of the season, we do a bake sale or a lemonade sale, and that's just for fun, and the kids are getting to know each other better. And then we usually host there's something called the Maryland STEM Festival. You can apply and then host the activity. So we would do that and host it at the community college. And also we try to have a outreach at the library as well.
The library, yeah, very good. So we have Philip here with us.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Sorry for coming in so late.
Yeah, we'd like to give you a chance to give us a little background on you and just tell us something about yourself and your team.
Sure. So I've been a mentor for FLL for the last 4 years before this year with my son through a school affiliated team. He's since moved on in high school, and he's doing FRC through Poolsville High School. And my youngest daughter starting 6th grade. I really wanted to get her involved. So this time around, I got her and a team of neighborhood girls. And it's a small team. Previously, we'd always had larger teams of roughly about 10 through the school. So we formed a small team in the neighborhood, set up in our house, and
how many on your team?
And with 4 girls.
4 girls.
So a real different experience, obviously, from previously doing it with 10 at a school. I will say that it was logistically a lot easier, of course, having a smaller number and doing it at my house so that we never had to do takedowns and resetting up really made us a lot more efficient. We ended up spending a lot more time than my previous experiences this year, which is probably the main reason why we ended up doing a lot better. And we do want to grow next year. Four was in some ways made it nice because of course there was we had plenty of equipment and really there were big roles for everybody, but in some ways, of course, it was too much work, right? So I think we'll try to recruit, get up to at least 6 or even 8, and so we have.
Yes, we were talking about the magic number.
Yeah, the magic number is tricky. It is. Yes.
It might be. We considered the number 6.
Yes, I think 6.
Magic number.
Yeah, I will. I mean, I will say 4 was good in many ways, but it was too small, and it just meant everybody. I think we were all a little exhausted towards the end.
Yeah. Would you like to share? The question was on outreach. What kind of outreach do you do?
We actually really did not do. We put a lot of time in on the presentation, but we did not engage in outreach this year. That would be.
Outreach could be going to talk to an expert.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
We did plenty of that with our presentation. We had a number of meetings with various people. We focused on wastewater management, and it turned out there were a lot of people in the Rockville and Montgomery County area. Once we did one presentation, they became super interested, and so we went back a number of times, and in fact, had a big tour of the facilities planned. That got canceled because of the coronavirus. But so that once you get your foot in the door, usually people are pretty enthusiastic, and then it just kind of rolls from there.
Yeah. Who else would like to share how their team approaches outreach?
Well, on the talking to the experts part, I think a lot of that has to deal with, you start with what is your problem you're trying to research and figure out, okay, what type of people do we want to talk to? And then they start sending emails around. And then once we come up with our solution, who could help us with the solution? And we have those type of talks during our project practices. And the girls, they're the ones who actually send the emails out to the.
Wow, that's very good.
And ask.
That's very good.
We've been very successful getting people over the past year. I am amazed on the response we've gotten. I mean, we had this year we had an executive at Amazon, Internet of Things. She Skyped us in, and then as soon as we gave our little spiel, she reached out and got a bunch of other experts to come in as well. And she was so enthusiastic and wanted to know how we did and all that stuff. It was an amazing experience for the girls to see this executive out there that was really interested in what they were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's important too. It's good, and as the kids grow older, they'll think about that when they start their careers. About reaching out is important.
And this is their
on, right?
Yeah, this is their 3rd year, so now they don't even think that it's a weird thing for kids to send emails to research people.
That's a very, very good skill. I'm impressed because some of my FTC team members, that's a challenge for them. So if you're teaching those skills in FLL, then I think that's going to really prepare them well for FTC.
Yeah,
So,
I want to
thank
add
you, Joe.
one more point. I think outreach is really important because one of the core values is impact, and that's how the kids can actually make real impacts. And this year I started to emphasize on that, to let them realize that even though they're young, they can actually help the society, help the community. So we actually our project was related to protecting the environment and permeable pavements, that kind of thing. And then during our research, some of us actually a kid find out that there was a bill in the city, the county council. So they actually wrote emails to their representatives in the county council, and all of them get feedbacks. Even that bill didn't pass, unfortunately, but they were so excited to actually get feedbacks from the council members, and also the council member who brought up the bill actually visited us in one of our outreach event at the public library. So that the kids were really excited. So I think that makes a huge difference to them.
Yeah.
It's a good learning process.
Sounds like something that they'll remember for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard because sometimes you don't hear back or get feedback, and you want to keep encouraging the kids, but that's part of life too, right?
Yeah.
That sometimes you don't hear back, but when you do, it's wonderful. So I appreciate that, though, Dazi sharing that. And Dawe.
Yeah, I think we have a similar experience that I think when we reach out, and very often we get positive feedbacks, and then we talk to like they're really professionals that in the high ranking, like the research group lead, and then the executive of the content management. It was incredible.
Yeah. How about fundraising? So of course, in order to make an FLL team work, you need to have money, and you need to buy supplies and materials to do the project. Does anyone want to share what their team, if you have something special that you use to fundraise? Who would like to share?
Well, we're a community team, kind of like Phil's team. And so we do a budget, and the 6 sets of parents, I basically charge them $100 each. That gives us $600 to work with to start off with. Generally, by the end of the season, we'll have a couple of companies that are willing to kick in some extra money if there's a postseason. But to get a normal, not a very beginning team. I mean, a very beginning team requires about $1,000 to buy the robot and all the initiation fees and everything else. But a maintaining team that you already have a robot is about $600. You can buy you t-shirts and all that stuff. And I point that out that, your local soccer team is going to ask for a lot more money, and all you're getting is a t-shirt. And my kids are in hockey, so it's not even, drinks fees for them.
Yeah, that's very true, Joe. Who else would like to share? Does anyone have any really unique fundraising things that they want to share? Fundraising ideas that's been successful.
Yeah, I think for FLL, it's really hard to raise money. I think it's mostly like the parents contribute the most cost.
Yeah, when our first year, we went to a bunch of companies asking for donations, and they say they only donate to the FRC and the FTC teams.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I cheated. I got my work to make to sponsor us. Although once we realized we were going to the World Festival, and then realized the costs associated with that, we were going to start hitting the bushes and try to get local businesses. Wasn't sure I could go back to my work and get them twice, but although I probably would have.
Well, it's not cheating. That's very smart, using your
Yes.
company as a resource. And a lot of companies do matching too.
Yeah.
So if parents want to give to, pay their $100 to the team, they also might be able to get that matched from their company. And every little bit helps,
Yeah.
So,
And if, as a, now in my 7th year, if your plan is not to go through the parents and to go and get fundraising from companies, I would highly recommend that you make yourself a nonprofit.
yes,
Companies are a lot easier to send money to a nonprofit than to Joe Cunningham.
right.
And so if your intent is to have companies sponsor you, then make yourself a nonprofit. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, I'm lucky in that aspect because the Chinese school is a non-profit organization. So we actually applied for a grant at the state Department of Education. So we got some money there, and then every year we do a big sale.
Very good. I want to take it back a little bit. We talked about, thank you, Dazi. I want to take it back a little bit. We talked about the 3 judging rooms that the FLL students have to go to when they are attending a qualifier, a competition. The first is the presentation, the robot, and core values. And maybe let's talk a little bit about the presentation and how you prepare for the presentation. How much do you practice for the presentation? That's a very big part of FLL.
I have 2 pieces of advice for that. Number 1, read the rubric. It's not a secret. Answer the questions on the rubric, number 1. And number 2, and it's kind of self-serving as a judge advisor, volunteer to be a judge at an early qualifier. You will gain so much insight as a coach on what the judges are looking for. You'll be able to make sure that your team is set up for success.
Thank you, Joe. And I also want to talk about the core values judging. And if someone wants to talk about how their team prepares for the core values judging, someone wants to touch on that.
It's funny, I had forgotten because I didn't coach last year, and somehow I'd forgotten about the going through an activity at core values. And so we had made a poster and we talked a lot about core values. And we really, we had dedicated sessions and where every girl would come up with examples for everything. And so then I just figured, all right, well, they're prepared. We didn't really have a presentation. If necessary, I was going to have them just, point at the poster and just more or less ad lib and was confident they could field questions and give lots of examples. And so of course, when we showed up and there was really an activity ready to go, the girls were like, whoa, they had no idea whatsoever what to expect. And they were not expecting that at all. Although in some ways that worked well because they really enjoyed it and they just dove into it and they didn't overthink it either.
You didn't overthink it, yeah. That's a good approach.
Yeah.
So the third judging room that the FLL students go to on the competition day is robot judging. Who would like to talk a little bit about robot judging and how their team prepares for that?
Well, as the judge in the room, the robot design, what the judges are looking for is to hear your story more than to see the robot. They want to know what choice you made, and then how did the robot get designed to go after your goal, and then how did you test it, what broke, and how did you fix it, and what did you do, how did you fix it. Dave Barron on Tuesday night said the same thing. Bring every iteration of your attachment that you have all the way through the season so you can tell that story. Well, we started like this and it didn't work, so we moved it to this, and it didn't work, so we moved it to this, and then that finally worked, but it wasn't working the way we wanted it to, so we added this and this because we wanted to do 2 missions at the same time. So if you can tell the story, that's the biggest part. And whether it's a simple robot and you have a good story, or if it's an extremely complex robot and you have the good story, that's what the judges are looking for, is the story. What choices did you make? And is the robot designed to how you said it? If you said, we wanted to keep it super simple this year, and then you have this robot that is, requires a German degree in engineering to put together, and well, we're just making it push out there, but this thing, this robot is this big,
Yes.
barely fits in the inspection area. And we wanted to keep it super simple. And so your story isn't matching what's actually on the table. So that's what the judges are looking for. That's how you prepare.
That's very interesting, Joe. And actually, that follows right through to FTC, being able to tell the story of the robot and how it evolved. I like that. So let's try something a little interesting, a little different.
Also, maybe I think I would like to hear what Dodger think about it. Their team is in the first place this season.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Joe won the first place last season, and I don't think the first place, second place, third place are that different actually. Anyways, so I'd like to say for the robot game, I think it's really important throughout the season the kids are actually do the work themselves. Because the coaches should not, I have a rule that I don't touch any of the robots. I just use my mouth to give them guidelines. I don't touch anything. And this year, actually, in the judging room, that we have judges that ask really, really specific questions. And I don't know even how to answer them because I wasn't building that robot. And the kids was, one question was, why do you use that part here but not there? It was two axles, two parts, actually two places where they used one axle in one place and two axles combined in the other place. And the kid said, because we only have one long axle, so the other one we ran out of parts. So I just think it's really funny. That answer was really funny, but it tells you that the kids have their own way to build the robots. They have their own way to fail and then to learn. So don't get involved too much in that and let them do their own thing. They will prepare themselves.
Yes, yes, I agree. Does anyone want to add anything to that? Anyone want to add anything to that? No?
One thing I might add, as far also relating to the robot interview as well, is we did a fair amount of practicing for the robot interview throughout the year, but we did it in the spirit of sitting down and really thinking through what we had done and the whole process. So, and I found, for example, early in the year, we probably spent a couple weeks on things like just testing out different wheels and seeing how different wheel sizes worked. And when we started trying, want to use the light, do line following with the light sensor, every girl had written their own program, and we're all kind of competing to see which one would work better. And so we'd gone through all this testing phases. Well, by the time we got close to the competition, they had and I had forgotten almost half of what we had done. So it was actually very important that in part of the practice for the robot interview, we would sit there and just ask them questions. Well, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? What about, what kind of tests did you try? And so then that made them very well prepared, not only for the interview, but honestly, there was just so much that they had done over the season. It was really helped reinforce their whole process and helped them see all the parts rather than just being a lot of individual meetings.
Right, yeah. Reflecting on the season, yes.
Yeah.
Because you all kind of forget. So do you keep an engineering notebook with the team? How many of you do? Like, raise your hand if you keep an engineering notebook with your team. Is that a requirement now?
No, it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
Okay, because when I coached, it was not a requirement, so I'm just.
They had one this year that came with the thing, but it was mainly a lesson guide for a brand new coach. Is basically what it was. Right. It wasn't really a true engineering notebook. Our girls started using one. I mean, they all got their, they all showed up to the first day with spiral notebooks ready to do their engineering notebook. And then it devolved into, they all had phones and they all took pictures of the robots, everything, and they gave little like snippets to themselves using their phone, like verbal notes on, they were taking little videos of themselves. We're doing it this way today, and we're going to do it this way next time. And so they actually created a video engineering notebook of all things. So we didn't go in with a notebook, but they were able to look back at those little 5-second clips, and then they, oh yeah, that's right, we did it that way, and it didn't work that way, and that's why we did it this way. And so that's what we did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that at the young age it's hard for them to do something like notebook, but through my judging experience, I can see some teams, they have a really like sophisticated notebook, and that I think it was inspiring. It's sometimes like you bring back the experience to the team and say, you know, if you want to really do your project well, you do your robot well, like, you know, learn the lessons and put the lesson down. And so that's kind of our motivation to do it. It is challenging, but it's still worthwhile to push them once well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard skill, like thinking about your thinking, right? When you write in the notebook, you're reflecting on what you did and why you did it. And that is more of an advanced skill. So some kids are ready for it, while some may not be. But I think the notebook, I guess, like you said, it's not a requirement in FLL, but it's a good thing to maybe start working with the team on. Will it become a requirement eventually? Or?
I think it's not a requirement, but I feel this year I gave a template of the notebook, you know, for I think for FL, at least I think for the FL Junior, that you have like a notebook to follow.
Yes, I've seen that actually. Yeah, I like that a lot.
It's a good skill, and as one of the judge advisors, but it's the same thing with the core values poster. It's a great thing. It really helps summarize your thing, but the judges have 10 minutes to evaluate all the teams. And they're already going to be pressed for time. To really do a good robot design notebook justice, you're going to take 4 minutes at least to go through it and ask questions. That severely cuts down the amount of all the other questions they have to ask you during those 10 minutes. And so I don't want to speak for Dave, but I don't see us requiring engineering notebooks anytime soon because of that time requirement. If you've ever been a project judge, you know that the time you get to actually ask questions is extremely limited with 5 minutes of a presentation. And so trying to rush through and remember what you're going to ask. And so I think it might be more harm than good. It's a great skill, and we 100% agree, but I don't think the judges are going to sit there and read an engineering notebook.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I think I agree. I think the notebook and the poster for core values is more help learning instead of competition.
Right.
Help learning, yes. Yeah. Well, while I have all 4 of you who are very well versed in FLL, I looking at the time, I would like to give each of you a minute to just share something you would like to pass on to other FLL coaches that are listening today, what you really think, what you really think is important in FLL, or some special thing that we maybe didn't discuss, some special nugget that you want to share, nugget of information. And I'll give you each like a minute or two, just kind of to quickly go through that and share your advice for other coaches and FLL teams around the country, I guess, right? Because
Well, I'm willing to go ahead and start. one thing that we did this year, which I think would do again, which is that because we were a rookie team, we really had no aspirations to thinking we were going to do as well as we did. And I just wanted the girls to have fun and learn. So we started with the goal that each would just, if each could even just build, design, test, and get one mission working, we thought that would be great. And then everything else would be icing. So we never looked very carefully at the scoring. We didn't really analyze missions in terms of which were the most points for the least work or difficulty. Instead, the girls all just looked and picked ones that looked like they were fun, sometimes very difficult ones. So if we had been more strategic, we would never have approached things like that, but it turned out working very well because they spent a huge amount of time. They each finally got one mission working, often very challenging missions, but they learned so much in the process. Once they had those missions working, they looked at each other and they started getting very ambitious. And they're like, well, we want to add more missions. It immediately became apparent that we didn't have time to add more missions as individual missions. So in a very organic way, they discovered, oh, we got to start linking missions together. And in fact, we have to join, two different girls' missions and maybe even change, reprogram each, maybe rebuild even attachments so that they could have a shared attachment. And so things really evolved very organically, not planned strategically at all. But as a result, I feel like the girls actually made more discoveries about what they needed to do to go farther as they went along, although it was a lot of work this way, right? Rather than, and it's funny, for example, pushing blocks, that's something we didn't even add until the last couple of weeks when we finally visited an early tournament just to kind of see what was going on. And we realized, oh my gosh, we're not pushing any blocks. Those are, those were one of the easiest ways to get a lot of points. So maybe not good advice if you're trying to be strategic, but it can work like that. And actually it really facilitated the girls making more discoveries rather than sitting down and really trying to say, a map out from the beginning.
Yeah, very true. And visiting an early tournament is a good thing too. It helps the kids relieve a little stress so they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
For their competition. How about Joe? Do you have something nugget to share with us?
Well, a nugget for a coach is to volunteer at a tournament, to be a judge, to be a referee or to be a judge. I would highly recommend being a judge because you will see what they're actually looking for. That's the rest of the stuff, what the kids are going to learn, you're going to see. Even the coach has a hard time looking back and just trying to figure out how much progress the team has made since the 1st of August when the thing is released until December or January, whenever your tournament is. It's amazing how much they learn over that year, and to reinforce them as long as they're having fun. I always told them, if you're not having fun, then don't do this. This is not a mandatory thing. Right. So have fun, do what you want, achieve the goals you guys set out for yourselves, and for the coaches, volunteer, volunteer, volunteer.
Thank you, Joe. That's very good. That's very good information to share. Dawe, do you have something that you would like to share?
Yeah, definitely. I think actually, I think the motivation that we have been doing this for 7 years is the joy that we see the kids grow. And I think that the one thing that we really appreciate is that this FLL activities can encourage the parents really trust their kids. Like they are ready to be independent. So let them make decisions and give them the opportunity to implement the ideas. And then, as I said, like learn from the failures. And I think the fun part, I think definitely we all want them to have fun. But I think what the FLL gave kids the fun is not as a means of entertainment. Is appreciation of the creativity. That they like solve a problem. They realize they have skills that are useful, that do something that have impactful consequences. I think especially that kind of like hard-earned the success is much more fun than, you know, like baking cookies, you know, like, you know, the listen to a joke. So that's the things that we kind of really want to keep doing, is that like we as a model to trust what the kids is doing, and then we ask the parents and mentors to trust the kids is doing as well.
Yeah, just as a really quick aside, my last year was space, and they talked to this NASA scientist that was researching the same problem that they were researching. And when they told them their solution, and this NASA scientist who was in charge of that, so we said, "Oh, I didn't think about that." They're still talking about, "Hey, we found stuff that NASA didn't figure out."
That probably made a big. Dazi.
Okay, yeah, so I totally agree with what Phil and Joe and Dawei said. So one thing I want to add on is, based on what Philip just said, we actually, I actually intentionally managed the expectations, because last year we went to the state final, and this year when all the team members actually stayed, so we keep the same team, and everybody was very ambitious, I think, at the beginning. And I think it's really important to manage their expectations, let them know that you cannot, don't set a goal that you don't have control of. For example, I told them that this is a competition, so don't think that you are guaranteed that you're going to go to state final because you went there last year. So just work hard towards work hard and have fun. That's the goal that you should have, right? And as long as you work hard and have fun, you let the judges decide how good you are, and you will have good results. So I think that's one thing, not just the expectation of the children, but also the parents. Sometimes the parents get really ambitious as well. They have high expectation for their kids. And I keep telling them that don't push them too hard. Let them have their own space. Let them, give them space to learn. So I think that's one thing I learned during this thing. Yeah.
That's some good advice. You guys had all very good advice to share, because it's not an easy thing to run a team. There's so many things you have to consider, and I'm sure that we could talk more about all of the challenges and how we solve these problems as FLO coaches. But obviously, there's a reason why each one of you are coaching, and I think that that's something that is a wonderful thing. And the kids that are on your teams, of course, are probably blessed by having coaches like you all and all around the world. It takes a good bit of time, and you know, it's not easy. You know, we all have our challenges, and we probably didn't really get to talk about a lot of those challenges, and I would like to, but looking at the time here, I see we have to close. And I thank you all for coming here today and for joining in.
Yeah, I think it's thank you, Jocelyn, for monitoring the panels, and then thanks to all the panels to give their times to the other coaches. And we have a evaluation form in the chat. I think I would appreciate that people can fill out the evaluations, and especially I think that it seems there's a lot of interest to hear different perspectives. I think that maybe we can organize some panels that focus on particular issues, you know, if there's interest. And I think I was amazed that the social distancing is keep us apart physically, but now the internet bring us together more easily. So I think if there's a kind of specific topics that, you know, people want to have drill in deeper, maybe we can organize a panel, like, you know, just focus on the specific topics. So so please fill out the evaluation form.
Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, good night, everybody.
Good night,
Right.
everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Bill,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
and,
Joe. Thank you, Dazi. Thank you, Dawa.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.